pagans go, where the fires are high and the candles glow. Take me down to that magical place where they're dancing and swaying at a feverish pace. Take me away on a mystical ride, moving through the veil to the other side. Fill me up with spirit songs of power and love's alive. Take me down where the pagans go, where the fires are high and the candles glow. Take me down to that magical place where they're dancing and swaying at a feverish pace. Take me away on a mystical ride, moving through the veil to the other side. Fill me up with the spirit songs of power and love's alive. Take me down through the 7 gates where I'll cast my being to the hands of fate. Take me down to the dragon's lair where myth and legend ride the air. Let me rise on the messenger's wings, let me see what the future brings. Fill me up with the spirit songs of power and love's alive. Take me down where the pagans.
I am not a pagan. This may seem a contradiction by today's standards, but in 1964 I sought initiation into a mystery religion that was also a fertility cult, witchcraft. At the time there was no mention of paganism. I am a priestess of the goddess, initiated, consecrated and dedicated to the work of the craft. That initiation and consecration at no point prepared, taught, or inspired in me a desire to practice the art of public speaking. And even though I have spoken to a few gentle pagan audiences, it really doesn't get any easier. My comments are with regard to my own opinion and experiences. Hopefully, they will not upset too many of those who wear a different hat. The desire to become a witch and priestess became apparent when I was 15. I met Alex Sanders at one of my mother's soirees, where God and his mysterious ways were debated. 45 years ago, witches were not the normal visitor in anyone's house, and the thoughts of meeting a real one made me more than a little nervous. Alex proved to be a fascinating man with a dry sense of humour. His generosity, both material and spiritual, was awe-inspiring. He spoke of witchcraft in terms that were down to earth and understandable, and I was fascinated by his talk of magic to such a degree my mother sent me to London to work as a nanny in an attempt to keep me away from the world of witches. After a period of intense loneliness, 1,000 dirty nappies and numerous sleepless nights, I returned to Manchester, where, at 15, the emptiness of my soul intensified the sense of unenlightened anticipation. I will ring Alex. The thought made me feel better, knowing that my call would start a new adventure. Initiation, penetration, and celebration are the 3 degrees of witchcraft. Initiation into ceremonial witchcraft mysteries entitles the initiate to call themselves a priest. Penetration of the mysteries grants that the priest or priestess is ready to receive the seal of power, which sanctifies the knowledge gained through the training, study, and practice of the art magical. Finally, the much talked about and often boasted of 3rd degree. The 3rd degree is a celebration of and seal on the previous 2, which when performed correctly brings about an intensified union with the cosmos. Before being taken into the second and third degree, the initiate has normally received training in the art magical, in which they should be well accomplished. This includes the ability to pass on knowledge without the ego that is bound by earth. None of this applied at my initiation. A mystery play is enacted within the second degree initiation, whereby the narration uplifts the initiate. It is designed to clarify and simplify the working of God in nature. The third degree initiation brings about consciousness of the God and Goddess on the inner realm. Inherent in the rite is the union of the God and the Goddess. Following several moons and discussions with Alex and members of his coven, the day of my initiation arrived. The coven hadn't made the path to initiation easy. Why should they? It was their job to test the initiate's trustworthiness, mental stability, physical wholeness, stamina, and vocation. Every coven in the early 60s feared persecution. One weak link in the circle endangered the whole group. It was the 9th and final day of the pre-initiation purification fast. The ceremony was to begin at 1 minute to midnight. Preparations for the ritual had taken 28 days. It wasn't difficult for me. I was young, fit, and used to fasting and meditation. Conversations in my mother's household were in the main of a philosophical nature that often included the art of magic and the mysteries of the occult. Not a morsel of food had passed my lips for the previous 3 days, and for 6 days before that I had partaken only of water, yogurt, nuts and bananas, which sounds plentiful until you realize the portions were tiny. On arrival at the Covenstead, it wasn't surprising that the smell of baking bread and cakes made my stomach grumble embarrassingly. People were bustling about, making tea. Someone complained there was no salt, it would have to be borrowed from next door. Everything seemed so normal, with not even a whiff of incense that had always been present on my past visits. A woman said, "Your bath's ready. Take your time, there's no rush." It all felt just a little too casual. Having gone through meditations 4 times daily, fasted and purified for the last month, I was now finding the Covenstead busy with domesticities, as though they were getting ready for a party. The water had been perfumed, towels were laid out. A plain white sleeveless robe that opened straight up the front was hanging behind the door. It had been handmade by one of the old priestesses, and truly every stitch made holy by the words, "Blessed be." My ablutions over, I began to have serious misgivings as to whether I should stay or pull on my ordinary clothes and make a run for it. Curiosity won the day. The atmosphere had changed dramatically in the short time it had taken to bathe. Sounds of thrilling music came from the temple where the witches had started the ritual. Every so often, I heard the ringing of a bell, a voice intoning words I couldn't quite catch. The young priest standing with me told me to disrobe so that I might be blindfolded and bound with cords. He was so polite and matter-of-fact, it rather felt as though I was in a doctor's surgery. The blindfold in place, I was led into the temple.
Oh man, you're not public?
The air was heavy with incense. I could scarcely breathe. It took an effort not to cough and splutter. I could hear the clash of the censer's chains as it was taken round the circle. The room was so hot I felt faint. A sudden splash of cold water brought me to my senses. There was a rustling of robes, followed by quietness full of suspense. I tried to back away from a stinging pain on my upper body. The pressure became more persistent. Alex was saying something, but I was only aware of the sharp pain on my skin, as though a knife was being pushed into me. Alex's voice was becoming annoyingly insistent. Hast thou the courage to make the assay? For I say verily, it were better to rush on my blade and perish than make the attempt with fear in thy heart. Oddly, the relief at knowing it was only Alex's sword stabbing at my chest must have made my reply sound rather curt and arrogant. Yes, I have no fear. In other religions, the postulant kneels while the priest towers above him. But in the art magical, we are taught to be humble, and so we kneel to welcome you. Alex kissed my feet. There is a lot of kissing in that. He was performing the fivefold salute that honours 5 points of the body for their holy actions. The feet that travel the holy path, the knees that kneel at the sacred altar, the womb or phallus without which we wouldn't be, the breasts formed in beauty and in strength, the lips that utter the sacred names. One of the young priests, Paul, stood next to me. Alex was grinning, as if to prove that he knew my thoughts, and said, "No, that is not it. Art thou willing to suffer to learn?" I replied, as so many do, in ignorant earnest, that I was. The scourging began, 40 strokes in all. They didn't hurt, although even with voice and bell warning of the number of lashes, I flinched at every firm, rhythmical stroke. The ritual voice continued. "Hail, ye mighty ones! Maxine, a duly consecrated priestess, is properly prepared to be made a high priestess and witch queen." Everything was going too fast. I wanted to ask what was going on. Feeling initially vulnerable, kneeling in the middle of a magic circle surrounded by witches, then self-conscious on remembering my nakedness, I was hardly in a position to start debating the correctness of the ritual, and definitely too cowardly to make a run for it now. The high priest knelt down beside me, pushing his left hand under my knee, his right hand resting on my head. 3 times he repeated the words, "I will all my power unto thee." Was it power, surging within every fibre of my being, centering on my solar plexus? Whether it was or not, the temptation to keel over and revel in this intense personal energy was huge. Often told in the craft is a story of a young Irish Catholic priest who was summoned to give the last rites to one of his elderly parishioners. The woman kept calling out, "Will my brothers and sisters not come and take the gift?" The priest knew this devout spinster of the parish had no living relatives. He believed her to be wandering in her mind. The last rites of sacrament and extreme unction administered, the priest kindly leant over the old woman, only to be held down in a vice-like grip while she willed all her power onto him. The next part of the ritual was daunting. the oath. To the initiate who is seeking the perfection of the soul, the breaking of any vow is unthinkable. On taking the oath of secrecy, I felt a deep sense of responsibility. I was bound by my oath as a witch. Naked and kneeling, I faced a priest on the opposite side of the circle. He perceived the goddess within me. I beheld the god before me. Incense swirled about the circle, creating an atmosphere of otherworldliness. After several hours in this position, the circulation in my legs ceased to exist. The pain disappeared. I lost all sense of physical self. The continuous intoning of the priest and priestess lulled me into a trance-like state until finally the words, "Be ye far from us, O thou profane, lest ye defile the sacred mysteries." Far away there was a rustling as the priesthood rose and made their dignified exit from the temple. A secret word of power was spoken. Paul and Maxine, priest and priestess, god and goddess, were prepared for the sacred consummation of the mysteries. Our offering was willingly given. Paul taught me how to consecrate the wine, my first act as a priestess of the craft. Over the years, I've proved to be rather good at that. The great rite completed, we sounded the bell to call the witches to the circle. I was surprised at just how many there were. They brought trays of food, sweet and savoury. 4 chalices of wine were consecrated. The young priest who prepared me for the ritual played the guitar. Everyone was congratulating us on our initiation. Chalices of wine were passed from priest to priestess, always with a kiss and the words, "Blessed be." They sang with gusto, which doesn't necessarily mean beautifully or always. Again the chalices refilled, the witches feasted and celebrated the making of a new high priest and priestess until just before the first rays of dawn, when the high priest drew the invoking pentagram above my head to salute in salute of my newly attained rank. The whole coven presented me and Paul to the 4 quarters of the circle, using the ritual titles Magus and Witch Queen. Did I feel any different? Apart from a wholesome sense of well-being, I had many questions that needed answers, especially about this Witch Queen business. I knew that this chosen path was uncertain, definitely exciting with a hint of danger that appealed to the innocent adventurer in it. I had not anticipated being put through the 3 degrees of the craft initiation the first time I entered a circle, and rather than feeling honoured, I felt a dreadful weight of responsibility. I had looked at Paul after the ritual. We had a mutual appreciation of classical music, but that was it. Tolerance, which later developed into ferocious magical rivalry, was the basis of our relationship. Was there now a bond between us, an emotional link created by the physical aspects of the ritual? No. He was a sincere human being with a vocation to the gods through the priesthood, the same as me. Together we'd experienced a heightening of consciousness, yet, interestingly, our personal memories of the ritual later proved very different. The power raised in the rite had been pure energy, given willingly to the gods. There was nothing left of it, nothing to bind us and cause complicated involvement that would interfere in my magical work and training. My questions to Alex and Sylvia, the High Priestess, regarding my initiations and title of witch queen were casually dismissed. Your task is to represent the goddess. Knowledge is not required for that. Only beauty at this stage. Only beauty. I, who had always been awkward and gawky, the cast in the eye and the National Health spectacles haven't helped either. I was confused. And where are we going? I could go on that. I was confused. I had wanted initiation that would enable me to learn the arts of witchcraft and to be close to Alex. Far from having the secrets of the priesthood revealed to me, my queries were met with obscure answers. Nevertheless, it was my choice to stay, and eventually my decision was bolstered with pride. The saying, "Pride goes before a fall," truly summed up my journey along the path of the mysteries. I was constantly falling flat on my face, in one way or another, and indeed I still do. The craft priesthood has many traditions that have been handed down, from where I suspect the cosmos and observation of the universal laws, but in truth I've no idea. Some of these customs are full of mischief, giving credit to the saying that witches were the gayest deceivers ever. The hoodwink is supposedly performed before the rite of initiation. Originally, that wasn't much of a rite, is it? The hoodwink was supposedly performed before the rite of initiation. Originally, the initiate would have had a hood placed over his head. Naked and bound, he would be led by the cable tow through the forest, or so he thought. Sightless, he would feel that he had walked and clambered over many an obstacle before coming to a place of foul odour. He would be asked in all seriousness if he were prepared to kiss the devil's arse. Witches don't believe in the devil. The hood would be removed to reveal the smelliest of billy goats. If the initiate was willing, he was seen as worthy. The most beautiful of the covenant's maidens would come forth to kiss the willing aspirant. I hope for the priestess at this point, the initiate had not kissed the goat's bottom. I'm not known for my political correctness, and it's a bit late to start now. I would be a hypocrite not to mention those who are barred initiation into the ceremonial priesthood of the craft. Whilst there are always exceptions to almost every rule, in general, undertakers, butchers, morticians are drawn to priesthoods other than that of the craft. The reasons are obvious. These admirable and respected professionals work with the dead. The craft is a fertility cult that worships life, and whilst aware of the cycle of reincarnation and the ritual needs of the passing, we do not dally long with corpses. Sadly, and sometimes inconceivably, there are others denied admission to certain circles of the priesthood, the physically or mentally impaired. The reasons for the mentally impaired are obvious. The initiate is willing to activate realms of the mind which are known to be unbalancing, even to the sanest of beings. It would be unfair to endanger the mentally vulnerable, and I, for one, am not prepared to take on that responsibility. The craft is full of contradiction. I felt the rule that barred the physically disabled was wrong. Indeed, I have met remarkable witches who are disabled and brilliant practitioners of the craft. One man, who was paralysed from the waist down due to a car accident 3 years previously, approached us and asked for initiation. As so often happens, the accident had made him think differently about his reasons for living. He coped with his disabilities remarkably well, travelling by public transport, hauling his sporty wheelchair up and down steps when there was no help to hand. Out of his wheelchair, he would rock his useless legs into the lotus position and swing his body along on his arm. The craft had strict guidelines regarding who is allowed to take on the mantle of the priesthood. The physically handicapped or crippled and anyone who is not whole in body is disallowed. This is not a ban on the disabled worshipping or practicing magic. Severe disablement in the name is a barrier to the responsibilities of priesthood. After a time, I developed a high respect for this sincere man. I disobeyed occult law and proceeded with his initiation. We gave him no help with his difficulty in movement within the circle. Paul felt completely drained after his initiation. He had none of the usual vitality that new initiates enjoy. Without the necessity for words, he and I both knew that I had made a terrible mistake, one that could not be reversed. Once a witch, always a witch. He went into clinical depression and was eventually admitted into hospital for treatment. A year later, he made plans to travel the world. With raised eyebrows, he suggested that I do not break that particular law again. The stakes are too high, and the next man may not be so strong. I spoke to Paul recently, and his opinion has completely changed. He now believes that his initiation opens centres within him, which have enabled him to penetrate and learn from his experiences in many cults worldwide. There has been much talk with regards to children and craft rituals. Ceremonial craft rituals are designed to work on the inner awakening of the soul, with the intention of speeding up spiritual evolution. Children need attention. The priest or priestess working in the circle is focused on the ritual intent. It's difficult with the distraction and responsibility of a child. Most priests and priestesses of the craft respect and honour the rights of the non-initiate to follow their own path. Parents are naturally biased. They often coerce their children into situations without deliberating on their child's true vocation in life. When there is a true vocation, the waiting time can be put to good use, if nothing more than for the development of patience. Initiation and training of persons under the age of 18 is rare and preferably performed by non-relatives. Degrees and such like sound terribly impressive. The truth is that realizations come in many ways, which makes me an admirer of the self-initiate. There are initiations that do not give a title or a degree. The day before midsummer solstice in 1965, I travelled on the small friendly train that runs from Manchester to Alderley Edge in Cheshire. I was excited about the forthcoming experience, but nervous about the reactions of the walkers visiting the Edge, which is one of my favourite magical working sites. It is a fantastic beauty spot. I'd been instructed to bring the thinnest of robes, so was glad of the weatherman's forecast that it was going to be a glorious day. It was early morning when I left the village of Alderley and walked along the steep road that snakes up the hill to the edge. There were a couple of fields to cross before reaching the wood of birch, pine and rowan. The path weaved between hummocks and dips and debris from ancient copper mines and sheer drops of open cast workings until I arrived at the large sandstone bluff called Stormy Point. From the bluff, the ground dropped several hundred feet to the Cheshire Plain. To the northwest, the land stretches out towards Manchester with Pendle Hill on the horizon. To the east, the fields rise in gentle folds until they meet the purple-grey Pennines. At the highest point of part of Stormy Point, beside a fissure in the rock, there is a block of stone which is called the High Altar. It plugs a hole in a cave beneath. This is called the Devil's Cave because, according to legend, if one runs 3 times clockwise round the hole, the devil is supposed to appear. My teacher was waiting for me. We sat for a while enjoying the view and the clarity of the day. He pointed to a clump of trees behind us. This is where my understanding of the mysteries would be intensified. I changed out of my ordinary clothes into my robe in the cave. The edge was already becoming peopled with casual walkers. Nobody seemed to notice me in my flimsy white robe as we walked over the exposed rock to the trees. It was as if the spell of invisibility had been cast over me. Wearing my robe in broad daylight felt distinctly odd, as in common with most witches, I was used to working rituals at night, hence the name we give our book of shadow. In a small clearing between the trees, I lay on my back in the pentacle position with arms and legs outstretched, creating a 5-pointed star. The sun was directly above me, its warmth comforting. The surrounding trees gave me a certain amount of privacy from curious eyes, but not nearly enough. I was told to beware of everything, no matter how seemingly insignificant. There would be priesthood near me, but they were not allowed to communicate with me. Do not move until the sun is once more at its zenith. I watched my teacher walk away until he disappeared into the wood. I could hear the sound of children laughing, dogs barking, and closer by, the footsteps of sightseers. My body relaxed into the soft, mossy earth. The sun's warmth induced a lazy tiredness. I drifted into a semi-conscious dream state. The humming of a bee sounded like thunder as it buzzed around my face, making my nose twitch. I watched it out of half-shut eyes, never before observing the bee so closely, nor all the other insects that hummed, flitted and flew in and out of my vision. Unexpectedly, the day passed quickly, and yes, there were a few times when curious human eyes came across me, and I'm not sure who was the more disturbed. At dusk, as dusk drew the day to a close, the mosquitoes gathered in their thousands to feed on my stiff body that was now aching and shivering uncontrollably. The damp night air began to cling on my robe, turning it into a sodden rag. The pious fascination with the world around me evaporated, replaced by anger at the then seemingly pointlessness of the exercise. Who wanted to be in tune with Mother Nature anyway? I wanted to be in my own bed, snug and warm with a good thought. Thoughts but were even more rebellious entered my head when it began to rain. The cold and lack of movement had made my body stiff and difficult to move. Inching up, I leaned on my elbows, trying to will circulation back into my body. Something stopped me calling out to the priesthood that must be nearby. There was a gentle sensation of heat in my right thigh. Something alive was lying against me, perfectly still. Several other creatures tarried or shared their heat. Not only did I feel the pulse of the animal kingdom, but also the increasing rhythms of the plant world as the long hours of the night gave way to the first rays of dawn. At that moment, I felt the throbbing of my own heart become attached to something so profound and mysterious within the earth beneath me. For some reason, the discomfort of the cold night and the wet of the morning dew were as nothing compared to the fear of discovery as the edge came to noisy life. The footsteps of humanity shattered the surreal, rhythmic security of the night. No one came to announce the end of my vigil when the sun had reached its summit. It was disappointing to discover that the implied protection of the priesthood was non-existent. There was no priesthood watching over me that night. I remembered the password given within the witchcraft initiation ceremony: perfect love and perfect trust. The priesthood assigned to watch over me had probably gone to the warmth of a friendly pub and a pint of beer, leaving the spirits of the edge to watch over me. Fitness, strength, and a touch of good fortune, self-discipline, self-reliance, and a commitment to be in total harmony with the Earth Mother, regardless of initiation, can put you in direct contact with a power, an energy that is all-pervading and essentially invisible. Over the years, I've been present at more initiations than I can remember, and a few really stand out. I have attended initiations that have had to be delayed due to hysteria, the laughter having to be muffled in an attempt to maintain ritual dignity. I remember a couple, and not for the most spiritual of reasons. The first time I initiated was in a small 2-up, 2-down terraced house in Salford, Coronation Street country. A wall had been knocked down, making the living room quite large. It had to be to accommodate an electric organ that took up a quarter of the room. The owner had played the church organ at the local church for years, and after his initiation into the craft, Gordon insisted on playing naked during craft rituals, improvising dramatically at the breaks of the rite. It was a beautiful part of the ceremony, the giving of the 5-fold salute. I had maintained dignity, which is difficult when naked, kneeling down to kiss the feet of the initiate, and with a sigh of relief had spoken the words, "Blessed be thy knees that shall kneel at the sacred altar." An enormous physical obstacle presented itself as I tried to kiss the pubic hairline in honour of what only moments before had been a perfectly peaceful phallus. There was no way round. My youthful innocence prevented physical contact. The musical accompaniment didn't help either. Gordon's fingers seemed to be stuck on the keys. Fortunately, the witch's magical weapons were to hand, and with practical aplomb, the wand was used to push the member to one side, allowing the ritual actions to proceed unperturbed. Outside initiations, you either love them or not. I used to love them. They tend to be tough. The initiate is physically put through the elements. The element of earth, sometimes represented by a healthy patch of nettles. Fire and water. Simple, no problem in making the aspirant feel alive. Whilst the element of air demands a high rock for the initiate to be thrown from. It is a wonder they survived. Skin colour has been known to cause a couple of problems, particularly when working sky-clad under the stars. A Ghanaian initiate called Francis was very, very black. There is a deliberately, intensely unnerving point in the Sky Temple initiation when the initiate is left completely alone, in silence, bound and blindfolded to be at one with the universe. This tests their nerve and obviously their trust. The sounds of the night are all that should be heard. Pupil Know Thyself comes to mind at this point of the rite. The coven contemplates the mysteries of the Temple of Silence. 1. Only groups. The rules are still the same for the person seeking initiation. It is advisable to visit as many groups as possible. Each group has its own personality and method of teaching. Every aspirant is different and needs to find the group best suited to themselves. Be guided by your intuition. Listen to the inner voice. And if in the slightest doubt, don't. The craft initiation, if only a stepping stone to consciousness of the soul's quest, whether that quest is in turmoil or in harmony, the initiation is forever. Only the fanatic or bigot would deny the power of initiation. The ego-less initiator receives as much energy as the initiate. The teacher who gives their all never stops learning. Initiation, not the initiator, is important, although a competent conscious ritualist does. Initiation does not bring peace. It intensifies the quest for knowledge and enlightenment. To be part of an actively conscious magical group that creates the magic circle of power gives one an exquisite sense of the universe. However, it takes unselfishness to become a centre of expression for the primal will to good, which eternally creates and sustains the universe.
Till night, you return to me through the eastern doorway of eternity, like the one I was. Like the one I would be, from the world without and the world within me. Down there, in a dream last night, days of sorrow, you had held my gaze till I chose to follow to the world without and the world within me, to the world I had lost, where I knew my soul would be here. Followed you down there. I'm still searching for something I found there. Hey, da 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 da, oh, da 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 da, followed you down there. I'm still searching for something I found there. Searching for something I found there. Sleeping, waiting, deep within the forest, dreaming. Weave your music through the air, transparent, shimmering in sound above me. I will hear them. What can never be heard, I will hear them. What can never be heard. Fairies come and find me, sleeping, dreaming, visions of an image splendid. Sailing waves of color, unknown secret, iridescent waves of rainbow. what can never be seen. I'll see them what can never be seen. Fairies come and find me sleeping, waiting deep within the forest, dreaming. Feed me flowers, berries, fruit of forest, delicate to send me dreaming. Then I'll stay here, dancing endlessly with you. Then I'll stay here, dancing endlessly with you. See all the waves, white horses, wind in their hair. See all the waves, white horses, wind in their hair. See all the waves, white horses, wind in their hair. See all the waves, white horses, calling me to ocean. The waves, white horses, wind in their hair. See all the waves, white horses, calling me to all that is wild, all that is free, all that is wild, all that is free, all that is wild, all that is free, all that is wild, all that is free. See the waves, white horses, dancing below me. Oh, I long to fly like a migrating bird. long to fly like a migrating bird. Oh, I long to fly like a migrating bird. Oh, I long to fly over the sea, over the sea. Someday I'll fly like a migrating bird, far, far away on wings that are wide to all that is wild, all that is free, all that is wild, all that is free, all that is wild, all that is free, all that is wild, all that is free. Dancing below me. To all that is wild and all that is free, to all that is wild, all that is free.
Keepers of the Flame is produced by the Pantheon Temple. If you have enjoyed this show, please consider donating to the Pantheon Temple. We are a 501c3 nonprofit temple and the first Wiccan and pagan temple in the state of Connecticut. It is our dream to someday have land in a building. Please help us achieve this goal. And for more information about us and our events, please go to our website at www.pantheontemple.org.
Take me down to the 7 gates of cast my beam to the hands of fate. Take me down to the dragon's lair where myth and legend ride the air. Let me rise on the messenger's wings. Let me see what the future brings. Fill me up with the spirit songs of power and love's alive. Take me down where the pagans go, where the fires are high and the candles glow. Take me down to the magical place where the dancing and swaying at a feverish pace. Take me away on a mystical ride, moving through the veil to the other side. Fill me up with spirit songs of power and love's alive. Take me down where the pagans go, where the fires are high and the candles glow. Take me down to that magical place where the dancing and swaying at a feverish pace. Take me away on a mystical ride, moving through the veil to the other side. Fill me up with the spirit songs of power and love's alive. Take me down through the 7 gates where I'll cast my being to the hands of fate. Take me down to the dragon's lair where myth and legend ride the air. Let me rise on the messenger's wings. Let me see what the future brings. Fill me up with the spirit songs of power and love's alive. Take me down where the pagans go, where the fires are high and the candles glow. Take me down to that magical place where the dancing and swaying at a feverish pace. Take me away on a mystical ride, moving through the veil sail to the other side. Fill me up with the spirit songs of power and love, so